What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new, and welcome to today's video, which is very fun, very iconic, something I do every year on my channel, where we wrap up my entire year of traveling in one video and reminisce on the memories of all of our trips. So every year I like to make this video for Vlogmas, usually after I'm done traveling for the year, but apparently I'm traveling again in a few days from when I'm filming this. I don't actually know about it because it's something Angelo planned. It's a surprise trip, but there will be vlogs. So keep your eye out for the vlogs and to find out where else I go. But for now, I thought we could recap all of the other trips we've taken this year. Each year, it's our goal to travel once per quarter or 4 trips a year, whatever makes sense. One trip per quarter kind of keeps us in check throughout the year to see if we're going on as many trips as we'd like to be. So we're gonna throw it back to Q1 of this year. Our first trip was in March and we went to Nashville, Tennessee. This was so fun. I went on this trip with my boyfriend Angelo, who I went on pretty much all of my trips with, but we also took his dad. It was his dad's first time going to Nashville and it was a great time. The only downside is that it was raining and cold the whole weekend, which is so disappointing. I've gone, I feel like in March before, maybe it was May. That could make more sense, but it was such a cold weekend, and of course the weekend before we went and after we left were really nice, warm, perfect weather. We just got a bad one, but aside from that, it was so much fun. We did a lot of hiking, a lot of eating good food, having coffee, revisiting some of our favorite like touristy locations, and then also trying a lot of new restaurants, which is always fun. And of course we got Hattie B's, which is our favorite stop in Nashville, Nashville hot chicken, and it was so good. We loved it. Then our next trip was only a few weeks after that. It looks like 3 weeks later, we took a little mini trip for spring break to Cleveland, Ohio. So this is in our home state, which I don't usually count it as a trip. I've got to say I'm a little bit of a stickler for what I count as traveling, but we went with Angelo's mom and siblings for a spring break trip, and we stayed at an Airbnb in Cleveland and did a lot of the touristy Cleveland things that we've actually never done being from Ohio. So that was really fun and super cool. We got to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I'd never been to before. It's super famous and it was so much fun. We all loved it so much. One of the biggest things I remember from this trip is that it was the first like day that I got Invisalign, and oh my god, I was in so much pain all weekend. The Invisalign was just killing my teeth. It was so sore. I felt like I couldn't eat anything. I was taking medicine. I had cuts in the inside of my mouth from the rubber band hooks. I had the rubber bands. My jaw was sore, like everything. And I just remember feeling so like miserable, but also just trying to not be a baby and enjoy the time I had. So that was really fun. It was over Easter weekend, so once we were finished with the trip on Sunday, I got to go with Angelo back to my family's house, who's not far from Cleveland, and celebrate Easter with my family, which is so nice to see both of our families in one weekend. We also went to the West Side Market, which I've always wanted to go to, and oh my god, it was beautiful in there. I loved visiting. It was so busy though, a little bit chaotic in like a stressful way, but the architecture of the building, chef's kiss, amazing. I loved it and we had such a fun time. So that one was really awesome. That was in April 7th through 9th, and now we're looking at May. So again, these were all just a few weeks apart from each other. It was a very busy time. Kind of feels like this is what happens with Angelo and I. We'll go on like 3 trips at once or no trips for 3 months. It's like one or the other. This trip started on May 8th, which was a Monday, and this was like a week of travels, which was really fun. So on May 8th, Angelo and I drove to Washington, D.C. to visit his cousins, also our close friends, Kyle and Marissa. If you don't know Marissa, she is my podcast co-host, and Kyle and Angelo are cousins. So we just have quite the little group there, and we have so much fun when we hang out. So we went to visit Kyle and Marissa and stay at their apartment, which was really nice. The goal of this trip though the reason we decided to go, not only to visit them, was really to go to a concert all together. We were so excited. We were gonna go see Quinn 92, and when we got there the next day, Quinn 92 canceled his DC show due to like a vocal injury. He like lost his voice, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he canceled the show, and we were like, well, we just drove all the way to DC for only 3 days to watch this concert, and now it's not gonna happen. So instead of being sad about that, Kyle and Marissa took us out to see the DC sights. It was so much fun. It was my first time ever in Washington, DC. We got to see everything, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, all of the cool stuff. So that was amazing. We did a little walking tour. The weather was super nice. It was just a good time overall. And the concert getting canceled was like the best thing that probably could have happened, because we wouldn't have gotten to see DC like that if it weren't for the concert being canceled. So we had a blast, but it was a really short trip because we planned to just go to the concert and then leave. That was from May 8th to 10th. And then on the 10th, this is where things get crazy. So we were in DC, and on the 10th, it was the plan for Angelo and Kyle to drive back to Ohio together and come home. And then I was gonna get on a train and go to my work retreat. Every year my work takes all of us on a retreat for like team bonding, fun, whatever, getting to meet in person because we're all remote, and it's the best time ever. I was so excited. And this year the retreat was in Philly. Since I was already planning to stay with Marissa in DC, I asked, can I just train in from Philly instead of flying from Ohio? And they were like, yeah, of course. That makes sense. So they bought me a train ticket on Amtrak. So Kyle, Angelo, and I all woke up early. Kyle and Angelo took me to the train stop in Alexandria, Virginia, and then they left and they went to go home, and they just started driving to go all the way back to Ohio. While I was on my train from Virginia to Philly, it was a train wreck, okay? I guess that's like not a good thing to say, maybe not pun intended, but we started riding and everything seemed normal and fine. But eventually when we're on the middle of this trip, there is a smell, and I'm like, this smells like burning in a weird way. But I'd never ever done train travel before, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've ridden the subway in New York. I'm like, that just smells like the brakes in the subway. Like, I don't know, sounds normal to me. So I didn't say anything or like think anything of it. I just thought those are the brakes burning a little bit, nothing crazy. Well, after I smelled it, we kept driving a little bit, and then they actually stopped the entire train and had all of the train workers get out and check the car I was in. So they were like looking around, I don't know what they did. They were inspecting it, and then they got back on the train. We were like literally in the middle of nowhere, and they just stopped on the tracks and started looking. Then all the workers get back in the train, and they're like, okay, there was definitely an issue with the brake, like we're experiencing a little bit of burning, but it's okay, we're gonna keep going because we fixed it. I'm like, okay, so that smell was definitely not normal, but they fixed it, so we're gonna keep going. We get to Wilmington, Delaware, never been here in my life. We pull into the train station, and a firefighter gets on the car, and I'm like, oh my god. A firefighter gets on the car, he's like, we need to evacuate this train immediately. And I was shook. So he's looking around, and like, we had already moved, like me and the other people in my train car had already moved out of that train car and into the one behind it or in front of it. So I had already like grabbed my purse and moved to a new seat. My suitcase was still in the other train car, but they told us that was fine. So he gets on, he's like, we need to evacuate immediately. The worker was like, don't worry, sir, like I already evacuated the car, like the people moved to the front or the back, there's no one in the car. He said, no, we need to evacuate this whole train immediately. This train is on fire. I was shook, you guys. So all that to say that my train car caught on fire. I got off the train without my bags, with just my purse, and I like got out and I started looking around, and it was literally just like black smoke bellowing up the windows. You could see it from the inside of the train. Once I got off, it was going everywhere. People were everywhere. People were scared. It was crazy. It was chaotic. It was insane. So then, long story short, I finally got to go back in a few hours later after just sitting in the grass in the middle of the town square in Wilmington, Delaware, and get my bag, which smelled like smoke. And I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna smell like a smoker when I get to my work retreat. I was so upset. But I finally got on a new train. I had to literally stand all the way from Wilmington, Delaware to Philadelphia. And once I got there, I walked to the hotel and all was fine. And then I had a really great time at my work retreat. We stayed at a super nice hotel called The Notary in downtown Philly. We did a mural tour, everything. It was so much fun. I loved seeing my coworkers again for the second time in person. And all of the travel chaos is always worth it, even though the randomest, craziest shit happens to me, I swear. So my work trip was then from May 10th through 12th. And then we didn't go on another trip again until October. So like I said, it's either 3 trips within a month or no traveling for a few months. So after a nice summer being at home back in Ohio, we were gonna travel again starting in October, and I knew it was gonna be crazy again. So on October 13th through 15th, we got to travel to Hocking Hills, Ohio, another Ohio trip, to see Kyle and Marissa get married. They're a big theme in this year's like recap. She's watching this video, shout out to Marissa. We got to travel around to see them so much this year, which is amazing. But October 13th through 15th, we went to their wedding in Hocking Hills, Ohio. It's beautiful, stunning, perfect, everything it needed to be. It was a really, really great time. I'm putting video clips in here so you guys can kind of see what we did instead of me just blabbering on and on and on. But it was a beautiful wedding and so much fun. And then a couple weeks later, on November 9th through November 12th is when we went to Asheville. So we're getting pretty recent, but Angela and I traveled to Asheville, North Carolina for our 6-year anniversary. Just a nice like little trip, the 2 of us for the weekend. Had a great time. We went hiking. We got so much good food and ciders, like hard ciders. We discovered cideries. We knew about breweries, wineries, but we didn't know that there were cideries that seriously just focus on like hard cider. Had the best time. We went shopping at the outlet mall. We did so much random stuff, but it was so nice for a trip just the 2 of us. It was the first time we'd done that in I think 4 or 5 years, and we needed it. It was so nice to not rely on anything or anyone and just do what we wanted to do. So we had the best time in Asheville. And then again, just a couple weeks later, literally a week and a half later, we went on a trip to see Kyle and Marissa again. Like I said, they're a big theme. This was Thanksgiving, so if you've watched Vlogmas, you saw us go to DC for Thanksgiving. You already saw the clips. If you haven't watched Vlogmas, please go back to days 2 and 3, which are our Washington DC vlogs. There was definitely some chaos that ensued. You can hear like the dirty details. If you want to hear me embarrass myself, listen to the podcast, because that's where the real tea is, okay? YouTube is like the pretty sights, going to the United States Botanical Garden, seeing the sights, seeing the White House, all of that cool stuff. The podcast is where it gets really down and dirty. So if you would like to see more on our Washington DC trip, please check out all 3 of those places: Vlogmas Day 2, Vlogmas Day 3, and the most recent We Run on Coffee podcast episode, and you will get all the tea on that trip. So that's it. That totally wraps up all of our traveling in 2023. I love making these videos. It's so cool to be able to watch these videos and really see everything we did in a year, because when we get to the end of the year, I think we tend to forget about everything we did. And then once I sit down and make this video, I realize we do so much all the time. It's literally insane. So that's it for our travels of 2023. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, watching my videos, subscribing. If you don't subscribe, what are you doing? Subscribe, dude. Anyways, that's all, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.